Welcome to the Kacee Allen Show. I'm your host, Kacee Allen. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We've got a lot to talk about today, primarily the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, which was an absolute tragedy that affected upwards to 8 states and left, I believe, up to 200 dead. This is something we haven't really seen in a while. Almost gives you flashbacks of Hurricane Katrina and various natural disasters we've seen take place throughout the 2000s. This is much different because the federal government, primarily FEMA, has failed to do its job. And not only have they failed to do their job, they've said we're going to give $750 to the victims of Hurricane Helene. Now, the very next day, or when this took place, the United States government sent $17 billion in foreign aid to Israel, Ukraine, Taiwan, just like it was nothing. But when it comes to the victims of the darkest tragedy, and you could argue the darkest natural disaster we've had this decade, they only get $750 for what took place, what they witnessed. Many people are looking for victims. Family members have been unfound. And on top of this, you have the likings of Pete Buttigieg, the Secretary of Transportation, who says you cannot use drones over the wreckage of Hurricane Helene or anywhere that the federal government is supposedly investigating. And better yet, Elon Musk called out FEMA for not doing their job. Pete Buttigieg responded to him on X and said, "That's not true. If you call us, we'll answer. We'll do our jobs." What does Elon Musk do? He says, "Pete, I'm ready when you are. We've got Starlink supplies ready to deliver right now." He didn't answer. 3 hours go by. He says, "Pete, I'm waiting for that answer. We have got supplies ready to help aid the victims." What did he do? He did not answer, proving the point that FEMA is refusing to do its job. It gets even better because one of the FEMA employees posted this video yesterday saying that the $750 going to the victims is not true, and they're giving much more than that, when she lacks to show a single point of evidence where the money's coming from, what organizations will help out. It's all hearsay. And it sounds like she's just trying to cover up for her cronies who decided to give the $750, not a penny more.
This is Kiera in the National Response Coordination Center. There's a rumor out there that FEMA is only providing survivors with $750. This is not true. One type of assistance, serious needs assistance, does provide survivors with $750 for essentials like baby formula, food, water, medication, and other essential supplies. But there are other forms that you may qualify for after you apply for disaster assistance. You can receive things like temporary housing or home repair costs. For more information, click the link.
It speaks volumes when Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Dolly Parton are collectively doing more than our federal government for the victims of Hurricane Helene. We know that security is out the window. We saw the Secret Service clearly can't do their job. So now we're going to say that the emergency efforts for natural disasters, they can't do their job either? And keep in mind, all the foreign nations are watching this on full display. They're watching the imminent collapse of our system. I would love to know how much $17 billion would positively impact the victims of Hurricane Helene had that money been equally distributed to the people of that cause rather than sent overseas to people that we can't even name the border. We don't know any of the leaders. We don't know any of the names. We don't even know how to pinpoint them on the map. But yet we're sending them more money than we could ever imagine. Yet people that are suffering from this tragedy on our own soil cannot even receive up to $1,000 in federal funding. Look, it's an absolute tragedy that this happened, but our federal government is asking for more conspiracy theorists. They're asking for more people to just have different opposing opinions to what happened here because they are not helping themselves out at all. They're making themselves look like they have something to cover up. They're not helping out the American people. And it just seems very fishy why they're not wanting to help. I mean, they act like they are, but when it comes to action, they do nothing. Why is that? And it really makes you think about Hawaii when all that happened. Like, was that intentional? Was that, I don't know. It really makes you think. I mean, they are forcing us to think here because of all these irregularities that keep occurring in our country. Wow. That's pretty wild. Here's Hurricane Helene floods through Tampa Bay Highway. Very bad. And then Pete Buttigieg tells people to stop using drones and aid. Then 50 plus patients and staff were stranded at a hospital in Irwin, Tennessee after the flooding of Hurricane Helene. They did in fact survive, but just came feet from drowning. And this was the original announcement. The Trump and Vance campaign immediately stepped on and said they were going to help out. And there were also private helicopters that came before the federal government did to help aid the victims, showing that private entities can do a much better job than the government. And then you have Hurricane Helene aftermath, which destroys hundreds of rural homes. Here's some very sad evidence of the destruction of towns in Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, and Tennessee. Now, it was a total of 4 million, but only 1 million people at the time lost power. But this was amid the crisis. Here's my take on this as soon as it happened. And a rarity, all Waffle House did close during the tragedy. Hurricane Helene donation that Trump raised on GoFundMe reached $1 million in the first hour. Very big. This was actually reported earlier. 2 were dead in Georgia from the tragedy. Rest in peace. Here's Trump's response on the Hurricane Helene aid, which, Joe Biden is not going to help. Trump said this last night in Evans, Georgia. He brought a lot of supplies. Here's Dolly Parton saying it's her home and she will donate $1 million of her own money for the victims.